Are you guys, is your group Victory Capital Group, are you guys one of these major, big players that's going to send me a 70-page deck? Or are you going to give me the straightforward sweet sauce like in 7 to 10 slides? What are you guys doing there for your raises?
You're going to get our overall, we call it the investor summary, is no more than 20 pages ever. And out of those 20 pages, you've got the cover page, meet the team, the disclaimer, the table of contents, an end cover page. So there's 5 pages already we've used up. So you're getting 10 to 15 pages of meat and potatoes, essentially. It's, what's the upside? What's the downside? What are the returns? What do the financials look like? What are you guys doing for tax benefits? Who's managing it? Tell me about the location. Tell me about the asset. What's the business plan? So it's meat and potatoes. You're not going to get some large, elaborate business plan because, again, a confused mind takes no action is kind of what I like to say. And if you're loading up all this information to a newer investor or investor that just doesn't have time to read a 70, 100 page pitch deck, they're not going to take any action on that. Someone wanted us to partner with a deal on them and they sent us the pitch deck because they were in a pinch for raising the capital. And, one of the reasons, there's many, but one of the reasons I was like, yeah, I'm good, is just like he sent me this pitch deck and this thing was like this long, let me tell you. And it was just like, if you have to explain yourself that much, odds are the deal isn't that great. And if you can get your point across quick and easy, investors would love it. And our investors do. We have investors where if there's a small percentage we need filled or we have an investor back out last minute before closing, there's a great group of guys where I can just shoot a text to a few of them and say, hey, we need 50 or 100,000. And their reply is already wired to you. Let me know when you have the documents I can sign. They don't even need to see anything. They just know. And we built that trust with, things like the investor summary deck, where that's the first place they're seeing about the deal, really.
Relationships again, right? We talked about that at the beginning. The power of relationships, especially when you're talking about purchasing commercial assets, you have to have it because at some point, everyone goes through these ebbs and flows of if you're in this space, if you're in this game, you're in the investing world of real estate. The market is cyclical, and that there's a micro and macro to it all, right? So the power of relationships again being so key. So taking the Hickory property specifically, you had an overcommitment on that, huh? You guys did pretty good on that, pretty fast.
Less than a week. Yep.
Wow, that's pretty good. How big is your
small raise though? Small raise, though,
Sure.
I should say.
But for your LPs, how many LPs are you typically sending out to on average for each deal? Or what's your distribution list like? How many LPs?
Yeah, so our bulk list is just over 750 investors. Those aren't people that have invested with us or are looking to do it right now. Those are people that have reached out, shown interest, signed up on our website, and in some form have breathed life into us that we think they're going to do something potentially. They're getting on that list. From there, you have the short list where you've got people that say, hey, on the next one, I need a call, and we're going to make those personal calls. Or you've got the repeat investors who are going to get those calls regardless and just say, hey, you've invested with us on every single deal. Here's another opportunity. And we know without a doubt they're going to invest on the next one. So, you've got your funnel. You're starting out those 750. You get down to maybe a 20 or 30% open rate on the email. Then from there, who's attending the webinar, who's reaching out, who's on the short list. And then it spits out call it 20 investors you have on a deal if it's a smaller raise.
Whenever you're getting ready for that initial call, let's say, right? You send on the deck, you're getting ready for that first webinar. What's your pregame? What are you doing? Are you pounding like some Red Bull beforehand, or kind of what's your go-to?
No, none, because then I'll have to use the bathroom. That stuff goes through me like crazy. So drinking a little bit of water, but not too much, where I got to get up and leave through the webinar because we do the presentation for 30 minutes, take Q&As. But we had so many great questions on our last call. It was an hour and a half long. So our presentation was 30 minutes. We spoke to the investors for an hour, which is great. But, I love the webinars. That's one of my favorite parts of doing a deal because I love talking to people like this, Justin, and I love answering questions and presenting. So, my partners and I, or partner, I should say, will do a few dry runs of the presentation, kind of assign slides, we're going to pick and choose here, but we're not spending too much time to prep for these things because again, they're short. We're comfortable with who we're presenting to. We're comfortable with the product and we should know it really well, but we don't have to look at a slide. So the pregame, so to speak, is pretty easy. It's more of like just pounding some emails and it's 8:00. Let's get on the call and make it happen.
And the questions you get, I'm imagining, obviously they're about numbers, right? So what are you seeing on the trend? Are we talking, okay, you're telling me you're getting your 7% preferred, but let's talk about cap rate, or what is this internal rate right here, this IRR you've got projected on a 5-year exit? What are you seeing as those most common questions these days from your LPs?
Yeah, so the big elephant in the room has been the rate, obviously. When I started with the intro of the webinar, hey, a big piece we're going to talk about is current economic environment and the current interest rate environment. And so I let people know we're going to talk about that. We're going to realize on that. We're not going to ignore it or try to push over it. So, and a big piece is our cap rate as well. We take a lot of pride in how we analyze our deals and where we calculate. So, for example, you're obviously familiar with North Carolina, C and B class assets and what they're trading at, and I track all that too. So, if we're buying a deal at, let's say, a 4.8 cap or 4.6 cap, we're going to make our exit cap rate at least 6% or higher. On our Hickory deal, we plan to exit that deal at a 6.20% cap rate in 5 years. I find that to be pretty strong for the asset, the location, the year built. We've got a pool, we've got solar panels on the roof, we've got an elevator, we've got 5 laundry facilities, 1 on each floor, a leasing office, a very attractive area where there's a Chick-fil-A and a Starbucks 0.2 miles away, and we're surrounded by medical offices, which are lots of great jobs. So, we're very comfortable in that aspect. And we're going to look at the greater market. We're going to look at the price per door. So we don't just look at the exit cap rate. When we throw an exit cap rate in there based on our assumptions, we also say, well, can we sell this at 135 or 140 a door in 5 years? Is that a doable number? If it said 200,000 a door in 5 years based on that 6.2% exit cap rate, I tell you no, I think you're crazy. But if you say, okay, in 5 years we can exit this at 135 a door, well, an asset next door just sold at 130 a door today. So we're very comfortable we can achieve that number in probably 2 years, if not a year. And so that kind of, we're always assuming our exit cap rate is going to be significantly or somewhat higher than our entry cap rate. So if we're buying at a 5, you were going to assume we're going to at least exit at a 6. If we're buying at a 5.2, we got to be above 6. It's math. It makes sense. We have to assume the economy is always going to push back or the market's going to decrease, which causes interest rates to increase in the standpoint. That way, if it stays the same or compresses even more, we're going to blow our projections out of the water.
Now, that's being conservative, by the way, for those who don't understand that concept. That's for being conservative on financials, which is good when you're talking about trying to predict what a market is going to do multiple years down the road. Nobody's got a crystal ball. Nobody knows. But at the end of the day, it's about trust. And I find that, depending on the dollar amount, depending on the relationship, people will trust you once. But after that, if you don't deliver, that's when that trust runs out very fast. Good luck getting a phone call back or a response from anybody after that. So I can't fault you for that whatsoever.